A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Today we're looking at an iconic product that's been around for a long time and is still popular. It's the Meguiars Endurance tyre gel. Long-lasting high gloss shine is the main kind of claim to fame with the product. Still on the market, it's been around for decades, but the market may have moved on to other formats like these water-based dressings. There's a Meguiars one over there that we'll look at in other videos and talk about why the market may have moved on and why some people will love this product and other people won't. Now let's just talk about price first. £15 for 473 millilitres if you're standing on the shelf of Halfords and you're looking for a tyre dressing. You'd also find Auto Glim high performance tyre dressing for £12.49 for 500 ml, so about £2.50 cheaper. And if you're just buying on price, you'd also see on the shelves the Turtle Wax Wet and Black, which is like a spray-on one, slightly different spray-on, and I think you kind of just leave it so it's a bit easier to apply. £7.49 for 500 ml. So if you're a price buyer, you might go for that one. So that's why we give you this price information. If you're looking for options outside of kind of Halfords, these some of the ones that I like and recommend. The Gion Tyre Express, which I believe is £19 for 500 ml, so that's more expensive. But also Car Pro Pearl, I think, is a really good tyre dressing. That's £11.99. But you mix it 1-to-1 for tyres, and you can mix it down to 1-to-3 or 1-to-4. That's a concentrate that we have over here. So that can give you a little bit more value for money. And you can use it for other things as well. So there's some good comparisons. But you might say, no, these are all kind of retail-y and I want bulk. So Auto Smart High Style costs £42 for 5 litres. Or I always look for the cheapest on the market. So in this case, I went for Bonnyman's Black Magic, which is a similar silicone type dressing, which is 45 quid for 5 litres. So typically with these tyre dressings that are thick and silicone, you don't get like those 5 litre bargains for like 10 or 15 pounds. Tyre dressings seem a little bit more expensive. There'll be exceptions to that. Right, so I've now given you good pricing information of where you can go if you want cheaper, where you can go if you want bulk, where you want to go if you want to go to sort of like different tech brands and stuff, So you've got everything there. Now let's get back onto Meguiars Endurance first of all, and let's apply this. So they'll always recommend you clean and sort of scrub out your tyre first, and then when it's dry with a silicone product, you lay out the dressing. With thick silicones, it's best to use like a sponge. With watery ones, then a brush can work better. Now this tyre is ancient and it is full of this built-up baked-on blooming, which would be a nightmare to get off. But even though this tyre feels clean, it's got all that baked-on blooming. You could get that off. We talked about that, and you could go in with some solvents and all that sort of stuff. But one of the advantages of this product, in being a silicone, is how well it masks all of these imperfections in the tyres. And I always think you could clean a tyre to like a reasonable standard. You wouldn't have to go nuts with it, so you can eat your dinner off it. And then this dressing can kind of take care of the rest. So this is the experience you're going to get when you use it. And you can see all that brown blooming is just disappearing when all this kind of silicone or whatever it is, there'd be maybe some solvent in here, mixes in with all of that, and it just blackens it off. Look at it, it just eats it, and that brown just goes to black. So it's quite a powerful dressing, and you can see here just that initial amount that I put on is more than enough to get over half of the tyre. My little drum kit in the cupboard's going off. Can you hear it? You think, what the hell has he got in there? I've got a drum kit. Don't ask, look. I'm a clown. A little digress. Anyway, get back on it. So the first thing is, whenever you use Meguiars Tyre Endurance, it was popular because I think fundamentally it always works and it always gives you a good look after you've applied it. It's a wet look, it's a high gloss look, and it doesn't dry as much as other tyre dressings. It stays wet looking and it does last well on the tyre. When I started using this, I think we could be talking longer than 20 years ago. The first time I used it, I was blown away with it. And it was like, this thing is the best tyre dressing I've ever used. That's it. I'm done. I found it. But I don't tend to use it nowadays, and we'll talk about why. But you will get a really good cleanup of anything that's on the tyre, and you'll get a nice dark wet look dressing. That's one of its main strengths. Okay, what are the disadvantages of this particular format of silicone? It can be slimy on the fingers, and it can progressively, as you use more, you can get some on the side of the bottle because it's reliant on using a sponge. When you use sponges as tyre applicators, they get hammered. So you want cheap ones, you know. They will also tear up eventually because you're rubbing rubber with plastic or whatever this is, and it just tears your foam up. So net result is that will eventually be black if I use it every week, and it will get all slimy as well. And it's sort of like you go and grab it in your bucket of things and your fingers get all slimy. So that's the kind of disadvantage. Another disadvantage is if you over apply Meguiar's endurance tyre dressing, you can get like the silicone or the material will just catch and go into these grooves and sit there, and then when you drive the car off and the tyre spins, that can flick against the arches and stuff, and you can see a bit of silicone there and stuff. You can avoid that obviously by just making sure you don't do that, or you pick up any excess with a sort of a microfiber towel, one that's you're not too fussy about. And just make sure you've got a thin film of it like that on the car. That's one of the advantages. Okay, that's one of the things you need to consider when you're using this format. There is another disadvantage to the fact that this is a kind of wetter kind of product that I find if I use a dressing like this, and it's not just the Meguiars, it's anything that's kind of gel-like and wet. When brake dust hits that silicone, it sort of sticks into the film. And then the next time you go and clean the tyres off, especially if you left it like 3 or 4 weeks, you can get a build-up of like cakey black brake dust and the material there. And it's harder to strip it back to kind of bare rubber and start again, you know, bare prep if you like. But you can just give it half decent clean and then put loads more dressing over the top and it looks good again. But yeah, you can get that black slimy kind of build-up. Okay, this product also offers a reduction in blooming, the brown stuff which comes out of fresh tyres. Maybe it forms a seal of silicone which helps stop that coming out of the tyre, or maybe, like we saw, it just seems to sort of like mix with whatever's brown stuff is left, and you can see it on new tyres, and it gets rid of it from a visual perspective. So it does seem to do well on that brown claim. I haven't noticed it promote blooming on tyres. I haven't noticed ever from using Meguiar's tyre endurance that it's going to promote tyres cracking and perishing because it's solvent based. Never ever seen any of that. But that could be a valued argument. If your tyres are cracking and perishing, generally it's because they're like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. That's never been a problem for me because my tyres never last that long. It's because I'm a bit of an idiot with them and I track and all that sort of stuff. Okay, another disadvantage with it still being wet is when you go and wash that the next time, you won't remove Meguiar's tyre endurance with a wash and a scrub, but you'll knock down a lot of its kind of wow factor if it's still there when you wash it. But it's reasonably good on durability, and we've done long-term tests on it back on the channel years ago. In layman's, you put that on your tyre, you're going to have a good couple of weeks of having a dark, shiny tyre, at least, in my opinion. Okay, we've talked about sling, we've talked about slime, we've talked about build-up of brake dust, we've talked about solvent. The pros of this are good masking, so it's tolerant to being put on all sorts of bad prep and still give you good results. The biggest thing with this is that if you like shiny tyres, you ain't going to beat this product. If you take your cars to car shows and you want the wheels to really stand out as being kind of looking good, you're not really going to beat Meguiar's endurance for that look. The thing is, it almost like advertises too much that you've got a fresh dressing on there, and the scene is quite fickle, and it can say, I don't want it to look like a really shiny tyre because it's not a natural look. I want a more darker, just satin sheen, so it just looks like I've got really nice tyres. And here's an example of that, because that's not freshly dressed either. The car was washed, I haven't redressed, and it's just like a black rubber look with a slight sheen on it, which some people favour. You might get that from this particular product. The fact Meguiar's are offering you that tells you that they're aware of the difference and the emergence and preference perhaps for water-based film forming sort of SiO2, you know, ceramic water-based dressings. And we will put that on the other side of the tyre and compare them and get that out and wash the tyres and look at all that sort of stuff. So the other advantage, low prep is required because of the way that this masks bad prep. It disguises bad prep more than anything, and the endurance of the product is good. There you go, guys. We have literally just told you everything you need to know about Meguiar's tyre endurance. It's iconic. It's a Hall of Fame product. It used to be everyone's #1 choice back in the day. Tell me in the comments what you think about it, and I've got a rough idea of how that's going to go. Some people will still think fondly of it. Some people will still use it. Other people will have moved on to these water-based ones. But yeah, the shine on it is really still pretty impressive. And that will settle down a little bit. It won't always stay that shiny, but it gives you an idea of its main strength. Some people say that's a bit too much of a greasy look. And you can see what I mean. It's more similar to an oil, like a shiny oil, than a sort of dark rubber look. But that is fresh application. So even some of the watery ones would still have a bit more shine on them right now when I'm filming them fresh. But yeah, next we'll be looking at this one, Meguiar's hybrid ceramic shine, and seeing what those benefits are. You can even see though in the picture of it, that picture is a slightly less shiny thing compared to the picture of this one, or is it? Or am I just, oh, maybe it is, yeah. I'll have to get my gloss meter out and test the labels. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon on the Forensics Detailing channel. Bye for now. Doug.